talking about concern trolling. Concern trolling in the larger context of the sort of culture that we live in, and more specifically, how we navigate social media with concern trolling existing as it does kind of all the time. It exists primarily on social media, but some of us have the joy of experiencing it in real life too. If it's not a word that you've heard before, hopefully it's something that makes sense, or maybe you're lucky enough and have never experienced this nonsense before. So there would be no concern trolling without diet culture. And diet culture is the larger premise that the physical and health ideal is achievable by every person, that it's a very individual series of choices. We can change our health at its core at any given time by doing the quote unquote right things. That might include exercise, diet, whatever. This is the premise of diet culture. This is a bad thing because, oh boy, I'm lost. This is, the ideal is arbitrary. It changes over time and culture and really doesn't have much to do with health itself. The ideal body is determined by attainability. In places where health and calories are scarce, a larger body is more difficult to attain and therefore more desirable. In cultures where calories are readily available and all that good stuff, thinness is more desirable, thinness is more exclusive and ideal. But with the access to being able to change our bodies like we have in our current culture, that comes with extremes. Right now, our body ideals are super intense for men. They tend to be much more athletic and muscular, like ripped and six packs and like really intense in women. Right now, we are going through a time where we like our women to be very curvy, but a specific type of curvy with the right kind of fat in certain places and not in others. It tends to be more exaggerated, and people are able to do a lot more to sort of manipulate, meaning surgeries and maybe it's exercise regimens, maybe it's diets, maybe it's less natural stuff like that. This is a problem because it makes the motivation for health, exercise, diet, all of that external. We want to look as if we are doing things correctly. We want to be desirable to others, and we want to fit the ideals that we see in media in general. This encourages extreme eating and extreme exercise habits. These behaviors are not often correlated with health and ongoing well-being. They can often be pretty detrimental to a person's health. What this means to the person in a larger body or a person that does not necessarily fit the ideal is that you might be praised and encouraged for engaging in disordered eating habits, constantly counting calories, skipping meals, eating extreme things, going on exclusive like mono diets and things like that that are not long-term sustainable and don't lead to long-term health and wellness. This also means that it might be more difficult for a person in a larger body to actually get treatment for disordered eating, for a really serious eating disorder like anorexia, like bulimia, like some of these other things. If they don't look like the right patient, professionals may minimize their concerns. They may not even ask any of the questions, and a person might feel there might be a lot more barriers to their ability to access care for this sort of stuff. I really hate that these screens are here and I can't fix it. So concern trolling is commenting on a person's, that's not what I wanted, commenting on a person's health, size, eating habits. We might do that on social media under the premise of trying to help them. Hey, I have an idea. I see that you look a certain way, and I have an idea on how you might change it and how you might make your health better. This is ridiculous. These assumptions are based on very small bits of information. They're based on single images or videos, and assumptions based on where you carry your weight, perceived level of activity, assumptions about diet, all sorts of things that one cannot reasonably make assumptions about based on social media. These are some examples of some health trolling. Unfortunately, there are lots and they're all over the place, and they can range from this sort of well-meaning, no offense, but I think this is a thing, I think it's a problem, or it could be pretty intense about I think you're encouraging people to be unhealthy. I think you're encouraging people to die young, and you're a terrible person for that. These messages are so hard. So it would be just like a person saying something random if it weren't supported by the medical industry and the fitness industry. We have been getting these messages from a lot of different places throughout our lives. And especially if you're a person that's been in a larger body for your whole life, you've been hearing messages about how you're eating wrong, you're exercising wrong, you're doing everything wrong for your whole life. And so to have a stranger then express that, you might have a harder time brushing them off, not taking them seriously. It might be more impactful. These are people that are not really there to help. They don't know you. If they were there to help, they would probably engage in more compassionate and more kind conversation. They're there to sort of just make you feel bad, and they can do so without being a bad person because they're just trying to help. They're trying to tell you good things about your health and all that sort of stuff. Here's what we know. Shame and guilt do not lead to better health outcomes. When we're shamed by our doctors, by our families, by the social media at large, it doesn't tend to make us healthier. It tends to make us shamed, and that might limit our access to certain things. It results in negative mental health experiences like depression and anxiety. We may avoid medical care because we keep getting these sort of shaming and stigmatizing messages from our doctors, or we might have a hard time actually getting the actual care that we need because our doctors are focused on our weight exclusively to the exclusion of other concerns. It might lead to or encourage disordered eating habits, hiding your food, restricting intake, binging and purging, extreme exercise, dehydration, all sorts of things. It might lead to compulsive exercising. And this is bad. Extreme lifestyle changes are not generally sustainable. They don't lead to health or weight loss in the long term. Research has shown that extreme diets are not successful, and most people cannot sustain the sort of extreme eating habits that lead to short-term success in a diet. How does diet culture affect all of us? It sends the message that failure to maintain the correct body shape makes you lazy, it makes you look like you're out of control, and maybe even that you're unworthy of love or respect in many different fields. That includes on social media, that includes in the doctor's office. When we look at this and we consider how it might affect somebody with additional sort of marginalized identities, a person of color, a person with chronic illness or disability, a person in the LGBTQ community who might be otherwise additionally othered, stigmatized, neglected by the medical community, social media in general. Diet culture impacts accessibility. People in larger bodies are often excluded or unwelcome in exercise spaces, places like the gym, exercise classes. People may be stared at. There was a whole slew of lawsuits where people were taking pictures of people with larger bodies in gym locker rooms and things like that and posting it on social media for the exclusive purpose to humiliate and shame the person. That does not make accessibility easier for anybody. That does not make me feel safe going to a gym and being vulnerable and doing any of that. Also, many health or wellness spaces idealize thinner, smaller bodies. You go to the way we understand fitness, you go to a gym to get smaller. You go to a gym to lose weight. And so the people that do lose weight are celebrated and idealized. People that don't are seen as failures and not working hard enough and not doing it correctly. This leads to unhealthy relationships to exercise. If we see exercise as punishment or penance, it's probably not going to make me jazzed to exercise. If I think that exercise's main purpose is to get in shape and change my body, I am less likely to, oh my gosh, I don't know how to fix it.
May I try?
Yes, please. If my exclusive purpose of exercising is to change my body, and my body doesn't change with persistent, just hit admit.
I can't hit anything.
We're gonna do this really quick.
I think you need to.
Lola, can you help admit somebody? I can't, my mouse is gone. I'm gonna do this. There we go. And then also this. Thanks, everybody. We love learning things as we go. Yeah, if I'm trying to If my exclusive reason for exercising is changing my body shape, and then I don't change my body shape, guess what? I'm probably not going to feel like exercising much. It's going to feel pretty useless. I also might be thinking about food in terms of like punishment, or I need to earn foods, or I need to work off that food that I ate previously. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is obviously can be unhealthy and counterproductive. If a lot of time and effort is spent exercising, that exercising is quote unquote not successful, as in it doesn't change my body shape extremely, I'm going to lose motivation. I might dread exercise or engage in negative self-talk. I might talk about myself like a failure and I'm worthless because my exercise didn't work. I wasn't able to change my body at its core. I was doing things wrong. I must be lazy and worthless. So what can we do? If any of this stuff sounds familiar to you, I'm going to encourage you to try to change your relationship to exercise. It might be as simple as just thinking about it differently. To move from goal-focused exercise, we're not talking about, I'm going to exercise exclusively to quote unquote get in shape and get fit. I'm going to exercise because moving my body feels good. I'm going to find movement that's joyful and that celebrates my body as it is, that I want to experience my body and all the things that it can do. It's really helpful to find movement that you look forward to, whether it's dance, whether it's running, whether it's swimming or hiking, exercise and movement that feels good. Also, if you're somebody that maybe had a really, really terrible time in gym class with like the forced exercise, you had other experience like that, maybe don't call it exercise anymore. Don't call it calisthenics or whatever we were kind of pushed into doing that made it feel bad or unsafe. Call it movement, call it your dance class, call whatever you like to make it feel like it's something that you can look forward to. Finding space and community where you can move without feeling self-conscious. Maybe that's finding classes that are run in sort of smaller groups. Maybe it's finding a gym that has a sort of more healthy, external, out-facing kind of way to communicate about exercise. Finding a place that feels good. Maybe it's in your living room and you do it by yourself. That's also totally okay. So all of this is part of how we interact with social media, because social media also does a lot of talking about fitness. I don't know about you, but unless I'm actively reporting and like sort of discouraging like fitness and tummy teas and all that stuff, it's constantly on my social media. I can't turn on the television without having a weight loss or gym membership kind of commercial come on. It's constantly there. And so we want to be mindful about how that social media is impacting us. Curate your experience. It's yours and you can kind of do what you like with it. Unfollow and block people that and accounts that evoke feelings of guilt, jealousy, failure. If you see that somebody is doing something that you feel like you should be able to do and it makes you feel worse, maybe that's not a person you need to follow all the time. Make sure your feed has a variety of bodies represented. Find bodies that are like yours. Bonus points for people that are outwardly and explicitly celebrating bodies like yours. Follow bodies that don't look like yours, but are outside the mainstream, because I tell you what, there is a sort of exposure factor that if you are not used to seeing a body that's larger or disabled or looks really different from your own, there is a sort of novelty factor that makes it surprising and maybe even negative depending on the context. But if you're exposed to more bodies like that, it's less surprising, it's less novel, and it kind of relaxes that sense of there is only one type of body that is acceptable. It's really, really helpful. Also, if you're able and feel comfortable, be mindful of how others comment on your body, how frequently they comment on your body, and whether or not you ask them to stop. And if you find yourself commenting, asking questions, sort of dealing with other people's body without being invited, recognize that that is also a part of diet culture, a way that we sometimes bond with each other. Is like, ooh, like that scene in Mean Girls where it's like, oh, I hate this about myself. What do you hate about yourself? We sort of bond over this idea that our bodies are wrong and bad, that they need to be changed, that they are a major indicator of our worth. If that language is happening both outwardly and in your mind, might be worth kind of de-escalating that. I really like to, on social media, offer compliments that have nothing to do with outward appearance. It's not about, oh, that dress is so flattering. Oh, you look like you've lost weight. Oh, you look so gorgeous. You look like a supermodel, blah, blah, blah. Focusing more on the internal experience or how the imagery outside of the person's body. If you stop looking for and responding to that, you'll, on the outward, you'll do that more for yourself. You will judge yourself less on the inside. I gave some examples. Everything feels kind of cheeseball if it's not a habit that you have. And so these feel a little bit like corny, but also like we're giving compliments, we're being kind to each other. It's okay to be a little bit cheeseball. If other people have ideas for comments and compliments that don't have anything to do with our bodies and our beauty, feel free to share them in the chat. I would love to get some more ideas. I'm not going to make you do that right this moment, but you can do that. If you're encountered with somebody that's commenting, being terrible, being judgmental, get familiar with the block button. You don't owe anyone access to your body and mental health. Just because you're on the internet doesn't mean anybody and everybody gets to tell you how to live your life. Boundaries are great. If you feel empowered to do so, speak up when you see body shaming, fat phobia, and ableism. Feel free to, hey, that feels like that comment made me uncomfortable, or boy, I wonder if, that's an appropriate thing to say about a stranger's body. You can speak up, you can report it, you can thumbs down it. All of these things to sort of remind yourself and keep social media spaces safe and empowering and positive, especially if, the creator themselves feels like that is the vibe of their page. It's important to note that trolling says more about the troll's internal experience than it says about you. It's this idea of if you are constantly, if somebody is judgmental, negative to other people, they're probably having that internal experience as well. This is a small list of affirming people I've found on the internet. I really appreciate all these people. Those of you that were at the screenings will recognize a lot of these people from that documentary. Virgie Tovar and Sonia Renee Taylor are two that are important, but Roxanne Gay, Meg Boggs, and then I have some other sort of like artists and activists and people that you might be interested in following. They've been really, really helpful for me. I can share this. I can share this out. These are some articles that I found super helpful. I shared yesterday in our screening this article on healthism. This is a really interesting, and many people reference this Huffington Post article called "Everything You Know About Obesity Is Wrong." And then this is a little bit of a medical journal. It's a review of research up to that time. I don't remember what date that this particular article was published, but it talks about how the way that we define health and obesity is not based on a lot of important factors that actually indicate health. We are focused on heavier weighted people as opposed to people with high blood pressure, heart disease, all these other indicators that actually speak to how well a body is doing, whereas weight is not a reliable indicator of that. We did it, you guys. We are going to, any pauses, any questions there? And I'm right on time. I'm so proud of myself. Questions, thoughts, comments? Okay. We are going to, as a reminder, we're recording. So these moments where the Zoom screen is happening, but we are going to show, this is a video that Tresla and I made on the same lines. We talked to a whole bunch of people that either talk to people publicly and or do social media professionally. We did some interviews and we talked and learned about concern trolling in general. So I hope that you enjoy it. Do you have anything you'd like to say to lead up? And then, yeah, we'll have about 15 minutes after to have conversation to talk more about it. But I'm excited. Thank you so much for being here again, everybody. I'm going to share screen.
As a woman on the hunt to empower herself, I often look for ways to be seen, to be heard in a world that isn't always so friendly to women or anyone who is different from the latest beauty standards. Social media is everywhere. We are constantly bombarded with images and what lifestyle is best to be perfect. With social media, we're encouraged to share ourselves with the world. Honestly, the world is a rough place. We've been raised to be aware of the risk of violence, bullying, especially online. While it's an avenue to express ourselves and be seen, it's also an access point for people to be cruel. What's a concern troll? And how are they different from other bullies?
So to me, concern trolling is essentially harassment and stigmatizing ideas and statements that are veiled in concerns about health. And I really think concern trolling is facilitated by our culture. And I think for a lot of people who maybe don't identify as a fat phobe or a bigot or someone who promotes fat shaming or body shaming, they might reconcile their internalized fat phobic beliefs by engaging in concern trolling with people who are fat or higher weight.
Concern trolling is someone feigning concern in an attempt to undermine or distract or derail a conversation that has nothing to do with that concern. So especially when it comes to people sharing their bodies, in the realm of body positivity or body neutrality, it shows up mainly as people pretending to be concerned for the health of those people in larger bodies or bodies that they deem to be larger than they want to accept.
Concern trolling is when people comment on, well, I guess specifically when people comment on your social media posts in a way to show that they're really, oh, they care about you and they want you to know they care about you. And so they're gonna like really insult you.
Concern trolling is somebody making a wild assumption based on what they see on a social media post. Concern trolling specifically, often the comment is about your health, your lifestyle, your diet, your exercise habits. Trolls are there to disrupt and make you feel bad. A concern troll is hiding that, making you feel bad in like assumptions about your health. They're going to give you diet tips, they're going to give you exercise tips, all of which are unwarranted and unwelcome.
And it's meant to just like recoil so that you cannot keep the dialogue moving.
To me, concern trolling is when you go onto someone's personal Instagram or, social media and you look for pictures where they're very clearly like feeling themselves, they've put effort into their appearance, they're feeling good about the look, and you just tear them down for absolutely no reason. So it's someone, I guess, that feels some kind of need to go and seek out other people's lives and cause a ruckus. But the gist of it is when someone tries to tell you about your health just by looking at your pictures. So it's a hard cancel for me. Gross.
Can I encounter concern troll and be resilient?